Morning, everybody. Glad to have you here. Maybe one or two more will come in. We'll see along the way. I think most of you know I did the class already this morning, and they were full of questions. In fact, we finally shut down at about, they didn't get out of here until 1:15, so we'll see how it goes with this group. But a lot of questions, a lot of good information in the group, and you get the better lesson because of it, because they answered some questions that I did not know. Let's see. In the last class last week, right at the end, there's a lady asked a question, and I did not have a very good answer on it. Her question was this. I have a son or daughter, a child, and I'm thinking about putting him on my credit card so that they can build up their credit score. Is that a good idea? Well, brought all sorts of things to my mind, but I didn't give a very good answer. But I looked up something and I passed out, I gave her a copy of it, but I told the class last hour that if you would like a copy of that, it's 8 things to do with your children and credit cards. Would you like that? We could send it out to everybody. And if you're, it's grandkids, they might just get in the conversation along the way. Here's the essence of it. It's called authorized user, putting like a minor on. But you can, depending on the credit card, some of them will allow you, there's no age limit. You could put a 3-year on as an authorized user. But for building credit card record number, 2 things. One, that does normally not make any difference until you're 18. Okay, so you can put it on at 13, and they can even start using your credit card and get you in trouble over it, but they don't keep a record of it. But there's one credit card at least that if you had like a cell phone account, or if you paid for cable TV or something, if you had some utility service, if you call and tell the credit card company to start tracking that, you can build your credit below 18. So it's a little technical along the way. But bottom line is you got to call every credit card user to confirm. We will do that, or we don't do that along the way. But it is a possibility if that's what you want to do. But actually the article, the 8 things, is pretty well balanced. Be careful what you're teaching your child, because that was part of what my response was. But they also have a savings component in it, and then let's forget the name. It's a guaranteed credit card where you could save up $200 and teach your child to do that so you can get your own credit card. It's a guaranteed credit card. Secured credit card is the word. So it's just $200,000 or $200, and then you get a draw against the $200 along the way. So it's a really good article. I'll have Ray send it to all of you as well. Okay, today we're going to jump into investing and optimal returns, and the whole point is so that we can overcome some of the numbers I'll show you in a minute with the sad status of retirement and the American people, and how little preparation has been done on it along the way. And hopefully, people who are in here are on the wiser track. Okay, let me pray. Father in heaven, thank you again for fellowship. Thank you for the environment in which we can talk about money, and particularly talk about money as you've talked about it in your word. And again, our conversation is a spiritual one, because you, as we have gone over again, you own it all, and we are just the managers, and we want to be good stewards. We want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant, enter into the joy of the kingdom. So it is my prayer for both Ray and I, as we work through this material in preparation and hear questions and answers, as well as to each one of the class members, that we would be able to take the parts and pieces and apply them in our own life and areas that we need to be working on, and as a result become better stewards for you. Help us by your grace to do that. I pray in Christ's name. Amen. Okay, optimal returns. You say, well, where do we go for the Bible on that? You don't have to go very far to this. One place would be to the parable of the talents, sometimes called. But talent was actually a measure of weight of money, gold. So it could be called the parable of the bags of gold. Some people who've calculated what a bag of gold would be in that day and so forth, what it would be today, it was not just a little bit. it might have been like $300,000 that was given to these people in the 1051 or the 531 and asked to do something with it. So again, when it says there'll be like a man going on a journey, called his servants and trusted his wealth, it wasn't just giving them a $10 bill. It was maybe giving them, lifetime of income and said, do something with it. I'm going to be gone for a while. 2 investors doubled their funds. When the master got back, gave him 10, brought back 20. Gave him 5, brought back 10. 2 of them, he said, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. You did a good job. You did a good job. You were a good manager. However, there was one investor who buried his funds. Whenever I come to this, I think of, some of you will recognize the name W.A. Criswell, pastor of First Baptist in Dallas for 40 years. Everybody recognize that name? Anybody? Yeah, 1 or 2. Well, he was preaching on Sunday morning on the talents. We're all given talents. And this lady came by the door. Oh, Dr. Criswell, thank you for your message today. She said, I have 1 talent. Oh, he said, ma'am, what is that? She said, the talent of criticism. He said, do you remember the story of the talents? Do you remember what the person with 1 talent did? Go down and do likewise. Just go bury it. I was thinking of this when I come to this. But anyway, the one person went and buried it, and here was his excuse. Actually, his excuse is above this, where he made excuses, whatever. But his master replied, you wicked, lazy servant, you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered. Those were his excuses. You should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest, even 0.01 or whatever it is today. So God expects us to be good managers of what we're given, bottom line. Okay? And he's watching, as we saw in the God Spy video that we watched the first time. Here's the sobering verse. We've seen it before, but again, just a reminder. If you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? So there is no question that God is watching what we do with our money, worldly wealth, or mammon, as it's called some places. He's watching what we do with it. And if we handle that well, then he'll give us some true riches. And we've talked about that before as well. So here's the world that we live in. 78% of American workers live paycheck to paycheck. 8 out of 10. You say, wow, really, in our country? But I've had people in fellowship tell me we just go month to month. We have no savings, etc. along the way. So it's a reality across our country, but also resident here, and who knows, maybe even this room. And we're trying to help people get out beyond that. 58% of American workers have less than $1,000 in savings for emergencies. We've talked about this before. How do you get out of debt? It starts with an emergency fund of $1,000, so that when the tires go out on the car, the refrigerator quits working, or whatever. So you're not getting back into debt along the way. 69% of American workers save less than 11% of earnings for all savings. In the number there, the minimum number, we'll see it when we do a case study at the end. Look at a case study. It's a minimum of 15%. 11% will not make it over a lifetime to set you up for retirement where you're not worried about money. What can be done to resolve this? 3 things. Set up the emergency fund, $1,000. Short-term saving, 3 to 5 years for down payment on a house, saving up for your kids' college, saving up for to buy a new car, whatever it is. 3 to 5 years. We're going to talk about them as a different category of how you want to manage that. Long-term savings and investments, over 5 years. This is for like retirement, or it might even be for down payment for a house, depending on what your goals are and your capacity. The point is, we must have an overall savings plan to reach your goals. And many of us don't think very seriously about that, or strategically for sure. We just kind of bump along, month to month, whatever along the way. And that's a pathway to it's a pathway to financial stress. Let me put it that way. Ray and I listened to a podcast on the way in today. It was a Faith and Finance podcast. There was a lady who had written a book called Love and Money and Marriage, I think is what it's called. And she was saying 3 things that need to be done. But the first one was live with margin. She was saying have an emergency fund so you don't go into crisis, and have some short-term saving. But the other 2 were, one, you got to talk to each other, and how we don't sometimes just really have difficulty talking to our spouse. And the third one was be willing to look at how our childhood determines what we think about money and how we handle money. And when you bring 2 people together from different backgrounds and very different understandings of what money is all about, you end up with maybe screaming, yelling, certainly some stress in marriage. 80% of strife in marriage is from financial issues in the marriage. So developing an overall plan will be the direction we're trying to encourage this morning. Wise investing principles. Principle of returns, number 1, and short-term savings. That is particularly your emergency fund. It could even be your short-term, 3 to 5 years. Rate is not significant, but access and safety is. I listen to radio programs, podcasts on Christian counsel, financial counselors, and I don't know how many calls regularly here. I just have $500 and I know where to invest it. Well, what do you need it for? Well, in case something happens. It really doesn't make any difference with $500. If you make $2 this month on it or $3 this month on it, you want to make sure it's where it's safe and it's accessible when something happens. Follow? Long-term investment, we turn the corner. Rate is critical to success, and that's where we're going to show you some data and some graphs going forward. Compounding, back when I showed you a savings chart, there was a picture of Albert Einstein with his white hair, and it said compounding is a greater principle than E equals MC squared. I have no idea what that last is about, but compounding is important when we talk about wise investing and getting prepared for our retirement, if we're moving in that direction, which we all probably are, more or less. How do we do it? Consistent investing. There's something called dollar cost averaging. And that is where you intentionally plan, as we'll see in an illustration in a moment, you intentionally plan to put in the same amount into your savings, retirement, whatever it is, no matter what's going on with the market. It's called dollar cost averaging. And over time, it is proven that is a less costly way to do investing than go, I'll buy when it's low and I'll sell when it's high. Well, we are very poor at doing that. And if you want to read a book on it, it's called The Psychology of Investing. And by nature, we sell when it's tanking and going down and buy when it's high. And we end up, just eroding our savings for retirement. Number 2, not only consistent, but good returns. And I'll show you a graph of that in a moment. It is important on long term what the return is you're getting for your retirement plan. And then time. So many people will say, hey, I want to buy something. We need to buy a car. I think I'm going to take $20,000 out of my retirement. Do not do that. There's a guy, Greg Gaynor from Fayetteville, he used to teach financial peace, and he said, I calculated what it would cost to borrow $5,000 and not get it paid back for 10 years. You not only, and by the way, the sales pitch on it, it's your money. You can take it out and just pay yourself back. You're not losing anything. Not true. It's taking it out of the critical mass that is compounding, number 1 cost. Number 2, you do have to pay interest on it along the way rather than being in there and getting interest on it. And Greg Gaynor said, if you borrow $5,000, it's going to cost something like $21,000 in your retirement account. So don't do that. Please, leave it in. Time and good rate of return. And here's the example. If a guy starts at 20, or a woman starts at 20 years old and just dollar cost average, $200 a month, 50 years, return rate of 7%, which is not exorbitant, not hard at all, maybe. Total invested $120,000, but the value would be $1.1 million, which would be a good retirement, and the gain compounding is $980,000 just by being faithful and not having to buy that whiz bang something or other, but putting the $200 away. Now, my wife is an English major and has spent her life trying to correct Don Reed's talking, to get the verb and the subject to agree. I didn't even know what they were. But that's good for a preacher, to say, hey, did you know you say that? Well, no, I didn't know it because I didn't listen in English class in 8th grade. I got it. So I didn't care about it. So I came up with this owning and loaning thing, and she said, loaning is not even a word. I go, but it rhymes. It works better that way. What is the right word? Loaning, right? It's the right word, yeah. I thought it's a good word. Lending is the right word. She said there is no word loaning. But lending money. But loaning, owning, if we can keep those in mind, there are two ways to invest. One is loaning your money to some institution. We'll look at illustrations in a moment on the chart. The other is owning something like a piece of a company or a piece of a lot of companies or whatever. And there's a huge difference as the chart shows here. The top one, the S&P 500, if you're not familiar, is Standard & Poor 500 Index. It is the 500 largest companies in the United States. It is in the owning category. Oh, by the way, I should have said at the beginning as well, but comes to the point here. When I'm talking today about investing and optimal returns, as I said at the beginning of this series of classes, I'm not just going to teach theory or theology. I'm going to say this is what Ray and I try to practice. And this is true in this area as well. I was thinking and just getting ready yesterday, going over the slides again. When was it I first invested? I think it was when I was about 30 years of age. You can tell that's a lot of years ago. When there was a pastors group, and Waddell and Reed representative, as brokerage it's long gone, came and set up basically dollar cost averaging. Do you have $20 a month to put in? I don't know what it was. But started way back then and went through ups and downs like everybody. But part of why we are able to retire with dignity, translated, we do not have to worry about heat, light, and rent at this age in our life, is because we have been invested for a good return over the long term. Imperfectly, of course, but part of it is represented on this. The S&P 500, for example, we have some money in that right now. S&P 500, 500 largest companies, and we own a little piece of it. I mean, it's so small you couldn't even see it on a chart, right? But we own, so as things go well with the economy and companies, and it's spread across 500 of them, so some are up, some are down, but averaging it out, if you took the 10,000 over a period of 30 years, and 10.15% is a stock market return over a long period of time, that would have grown 30,000, or 10,000 would have grown to 182,000. Bonds is an example of loaning money. And it could be a municipal bond, could be a corporate bond, could be a U.S. bond, treasury bond. And you can see the return there, 6.3%, because you normally make more from owning than from loaning. Because loaning is like a guaranteed for a period of 5 years, but it's a lower rate, whatever. 30-day is T-bills, or treasury bills, where you loan money to the government for 30 days to keep it running. We all hear those discussions along the way. So you, rather than the 182, you end up with 63, 25, 21. But here, excuse me, not the 21. But here is the kicker. With inflate, you have to subtract inflation off from each one of these percentages to get to real buying power. Okay, so if you make 10.15, you have to subtract 2.64 away from that, because that's all that you can, that's your buying power. That's what your dollar is really worth. after inflation has eroded a certain part of it. Everybody following me on that? So you don't make a 10.15, you make 10.15 minus 264. Well, if you go down to the 3.22 minus 264, what are you left with?
Not much.
Like nothing. So my point is, loaning really does not get us ahead. You know, you might pick up a percent, 264, 633, you got 4%. Now, what is the current interest, the current inflation rate today? I forgot to look it up, but some guy said, "Hey Siri, what's inflation?" Well, apparently, yeah, we live in a great day. Apparently, it is about 2.95 right now, so pretty close to what this one is here. Inflation is down, but the point being, it's not just what you make, it's minus the inflation, and you're looking for what the net gain is along the way. So we are generally skeptical of the stock market because the normal fear is what of the stock market? It'll crash. The guy who called in on a program I was listening to on the way in, a podcast, he said, "I'm 68 years old. I want to work a few months more at this company full time. Then I want to, retire and then work part time. And I want to do this. I want to do that. And I want to, switch my retirement over because I'm afraid that it's going to crash by the end of the year." Okay, that's the sentiment out there about the stock market. When I put this class together a couple years ago, I had not seen this information before, and it was amazing. So here's the fear comes from right here, because it's about one day up, one day down. You watch it every day, you're going to go crazy. 1 month, 62. 1 year, we're moving up, 79. 10 years, 94. 20 years, 100%. And a lady in the back row at the first hour said, "Well, does that include like the depression and all?" Yes, it includes that. That over a long period of time, and it's because the U.S. economy is gradually growing up. So if you take the 10,000 or whatever it was and go out 20 years, that would be maybe, 20 or 30,000. Actually, we could look at the chart of what it was. Anyway, it grows. So the point being, the stock market, of the options we have out there that net a return for a more secure retirement, is in owning rather than loaning. Everybody got that? So, and we make decisions from there. This statistic just pretty new about people who feel they need to do something financially. Real estate, more people said, we need to get into real estate. We kind of think that's a secure investment. But how many people on that top line ended up doing it? 20, those are really small, aren't they? 20-some wanted to, but only 12% followed up on it. Because it's so hard to buy a house, or manage an apartment, or whatever. It's hard to do real estate. But where did people really do something about it? In the stock market, because you can buy a little bit, whatever you have. You can have $100 or $500 or $5,000 or $50,000, whatever it is. And that's where people eventually ended up doing something. And you can see that. So we need to talk about where do we put, you want to get that? I hope it's big enough so you can even see it when you enlarge it. Put it on your TV at home, you might be able to see it.
We don't know how to do that yet.
Okay, we'll have a class on that. Okay. Yep. The generational stuff, right? We're living with that. Wow. Okay, so we need to talk about two types of investment accounts. One is called qualified and one is non-qualified. Qualified has some tax benefits. What is happening in that is the government is saying, we want you people to be saving so we don't have to put you on welfare when you retire, simply said. And we will do some things to encourage you along the way. It's called tax benefits. If you do this, you won't have to pay tax on that money. So we'll unpack those along the way. Qualified accounts apply. A qualified account gets special tax treatment, and I'll give you illustrations. Usually, it's a tax deferral, not a forgiveness. A tax deferral for growth. For example, we see an IRA. it grows some this year, you don't have to pay on it because it's in a qualified account. You eventually are going to have to pay on it. We'll look at that in a moment. IRS limitations apply. Usually high income, very high income people don't get the tax breaks along the way. Here are some examples. Now there are two kinds of titles, and you can kind of have some fun as you drive around and look at titles on buildings. But I learned this way back in a commercial law course when I was 17 years of age. There are descriptive titles and there are evocative titles. A descriptive title I could give you: Maple Street Methodist Church. What is that? It's a church where? It's a church, first of all. It's on Maple Street and it's Methodist. What else do we need to know? Okay, that's descriptive. However, you drive by Fellowship Bible Church, what is that? Aren't there no womenships here? Or whatever the other half is. Anyway, this first one is a very descriptive title. It is traditional, it is individual, it is for retirement, and it is account you can have. Okay, so it is the one that's been around the longest, whatever. But it is you can enter into this one even if you're not working for a company. All you have to do is have some sort of income. If you're not in a company with a retirement plan, you can do this. It's individual. Roth IRA, we're going to unpack the first three of these, talk more about them. There was a congressman who said, I have another idea, and it passed a law for a Roth IRA account, which actually wears kind of the reverse of the traditional. As we'll see, one is tax deferred, one there is no tax on. 401k are the normal retirement plans in secular. 403b is for nonprofits, religious, like Fellowship is a 403b retirement plan. 457 are government plans. Pension plans, they're not around anymore because pension plans are where you have a guaranteed benefit. For example, the Family of Churches denomination, but we didn't call it that Ray and I served in for our career, had a retirement plan. There were two parts to it. Well, you'll see the word defined contribution in a moment, but there was also a defined benefit plan. For every month or quarter or whatever it was, we get a statement. If you keep putting into the retirement plan like you are when you're 65 or whatever it is, well, you will get so much a month. That's a defined benefit plan. However, those are gone. Those are called pension plans. And it was because, cities as well as companies were going broke with the promises they had made for their pension plans. So you had Detroit, for example. They declared bankruptcy and then renegotiated their retirement plan because they promised what they could not deliver. So pension plans are not around anymore. We're left with 401k or 403b plans, essentially. Educational funds, remember, these are tax advantage somehow. If you've got to send your kids to college, you put into a 529 plan, and then you spend that for education, you will never have to pay taxes on it along the way. UTMA. TSP, Thrift Savings Plan, is a federal retirement plan apart from the other categories. So what's the best in any situation? Traditional IRA deductible. If you make a contribution to an IRA, traditional IRA, when you fill out your 1040 income tax form, there's a little line that said contributions to traditional IRA. Whatever number you put in there, we're going to see the maximums here on this slide, 6,500 or whatever, you deduct that off from the money you made this year. So you get the tax deferral. You get tax savings along the way. That's the point of it. Tax savings now, I don't have to pay on it, and tax deferral. It's not tax forgiveness because we're going to come to something here, but Ray and I, every year with our IRAs, get a notice from the custodian that says, you have to take this much out of your IRA this year. Well, what if we don't need to? Tough. You take it out anyhow because the tax man wants the tax off from it along the way. So they meter that out. It's about 4% a year. Gives you and your spouse a potential to contribute $6,500 each. I think it says $6,000 in your book, but that's an obsolete number. Change. Is it in the book?
Yes.
6,000? Huh?
Yes.
I thought so. Yeah, it is somewhere.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's gone up to 6,500. Comes off the top of your gross income. One other thing, the $1,000 starting in 2024 is going to be indexed to inflation. It's been just a flat number for quite a number of years. But now it's going to, for 2024, I don't know what it'll be, $1,059. I don't know, whatever it is. But it's going to go up according to the inflation rate. It's always changing. Here's something to consider. If you take money out of your IRA before 59 and a half, one, you have to pay taxes on it, and two, you get a 10% penalty. So say if you're in a 30% tax bracket, and then you get the 10%, you give away almost half of what you took out. So again, don't take money out of your retirement accounts. The government says, I'm going to slap your hand if you do that. Withdrawal at 59 and a half, it's going to be taxed as ordinary income. That's what Ray and I have to report, with the exception of one little side door I'll tell you about in a minute. Our RMD, required mandatory distribution, it used to be 70 and a half when Ray and I started, but it is now 72. You have to start taking the money out. What is the side door to avoid the tax man? This is not in your book, but write down the initials QCD. It's called Qualified Charitable Distribution. So Ray and I do our charitable giving through Qualified Charitable Distribution. We can take all of our RMD and have whoever the custodian is send it directly to, like fellowship. We give twice a year because we don't want to be bothersome to the custodian saying every month, will you send a check? No, we do it twice a year. And we use our RMD as a qualified charitable distribution, triple win. We don't pay taxes. Fellowship and whatever other mission organizations, they get the full amount, not minus our taxes, and it qualifies to meet our RMD. Okay, so it is a sweetheart deal, and I did some donor development work out in California before I came here, and I was amazed calling on people in the senior category who their accountants even were not telling them about QCD. It's the sweetest thing out there. I highly recommend it if you're in that category of having to take RMDs. What's that?
What do you mean? I may have missed something. RMD, what is that?
It's on the slide, I think. Isn't it? Somebody tell me if it's in the book. It was a blank to fill in. The bottom line. You see required mandatory distribution?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
is it a blank?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's okay. I talk fast.
No, it's
So,
okay.
okay, give me a chance to drink. Required mandatory distribution. So we get a letter from our IRA custodian every year saying, Don Reed, you got to take this money out. You got to pay taxes. I go, no, because I do the QCD. Yeah. I took somebody in our men's group out for birthday on Friday. It wouldn't spoon. He talked about giving through his QCDs. So it's out there, and it's the only way to go. In fact, if you're over 72, you do as much of your mandatory, as much of your charitable giving as possible that way as a cash savings. You let that fund your giving. Follow what I'm saying? Rather than taking it out of your checking account, do it this way, save the taxes, and it gets to the charity, whatever. It's a really nice deal. Thank you, government. And they during COVID, interestingly enough, that number even went up. You could give more. They were encouraging charity along the way. Okay, benefits, contributions. This is on a Roth IRA. Remember the second category. Roth IRA from Congressman Roth, 1997, came along. The contributions are not tax deductible. You can't take it off from your income tax. You pay tax on it as earnings. But your withdrawals, including initial investments in earnings, are tax-free later. So for the younger part of this room, we're kind of divided almost by age here, sorry, but for the younger part, you are really in a good situation. Pay tax now, and then let it grow for 30, 40 years, and take it out tax-free. I mean, that is super, super. For those of us who are the older part of this, the congregation here, as we're divided up, it becomes less beneficial because there's time is not working for you. Everybody follow me on that? Well, if you're young, get a Roth IRA and do it to the maximum, and then you'll never pay taxes on it along the way. So the same numbers here, $6,500, $1,000. Somebody asking the first, is that for each person? Yes, it's for each person. So you and your spouse could put that in to the Roth IRA.
Is it either one or the other, the traditional or the Roth?
No, there's a rule on total IRA contributions, and you could ask Siri about it, and she'll give you a better answer. But that's a great question. But you can have both. I know that. I know you have. You can have a Roth IRA. Okay, let me start over. You can even have something, and I just learned this last week. You can have what's called a spousal IRA, even if you don't have any income of your own, that you can put it in. I didn't realize that. I learn all the
You
time.
can also have a, if you're in business for yourself, you
Yeah.
can,
Yeah, there's another whole deal, SEP, SAP IRA.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another deal. But it gets farther down in, more and more, fine print along the way, so, yep. When you draw money from the IRA, pay no tax, but you gotta hold it 5 years. No required minimum distribution or mandatory distribution withdrawals, so they don't say you have to take it out. No, you can leave it in, let it earn. Convertible from traditional IRA, but you say, I've got money, you say younger folks, I've got money in a traditional IRA, I'm gonna convert that to a Roth. You can do that, but you gotta pay the taxes now. Okay? Then you could let it grow, depending on your age, that can be very advantageous, and if you have the cash money to pay the taxes. So earlier deposit, greater benefit for time we talked about. Withdrawals from, because this is a retirement account, remember, IRA, individual retirement account. Withdrawals, the government says, nope, I'm going to slap you 10%, you're going to lose by taking it out. The money paid in taxes, a disadvantage, the money paid in taxes up front is not available to vested growth, but if you have time, that'll more than make up for that, all things being equal. Then there's something called a traditional IRA non-deductible. And this is where, same as the other IRA, your earnings are deferred until retirement, but you may not be deductible from your current tax bill. Here's where some people that use it are high net worth people who can have a traditional deductible IRA. They get a non-deductible IRA, then convert it to a Roth. Follow me? And they don't have to pay the tax on it because it's already been paid. They did not get a deduction from a traditional IRA. It's a way to get into the IRA scene when you don't qualify along the way. Yep. The government is really encouraging, get your savings in place for retirement. The non-deductible, we talked about that. Okay. Benefits of the non-deductible, postpone the payment of taxes on any earnings until they're withdrawn. So you get the same advantage as with the IRA, the traditional IRA. You don't have to pay each year on what it grows. It's just in the end, usually retirement. So, wise investing principles for the 401k and the 403b, which are the usual categories that we would be in around the tables here. A defined contribution plan offered by a corporation. This would be the normal retirement plan if you're in a secular business, a corporate business. And there's a trend out there right now for when employees start at a new job to automatically enroll you in the retirement plan. And part of the reason was a lot of new employees were saying, I don't worry about retirement. I'm 24 years old. I don't need that. Well, because of the statistics of being in such bad shape in retirement plans, many companies are enrolling you automatically. And that's true here at Fellowship, 403b plan, you're automatically enrolled unless you intentionally opt out. You got to really say, I don't want to do that. Because trying to get people in the habit of saving for retirement in this, instant gratification culture that we live in. Second point, employees set aside a tax-deferred retirement income. So you have to sign for it somewhere along the way. It's not just taken out like taxes, but you agree to it. Many employers match a portion, and a lot of you, if the ones who are still working, you would say, yeah, my employer matches 3% or 5% or 6%, whatever it is. And then penalties, restrictions, tax impacts, because there's a retirement plan, early withdrawals, that kind of thing. A lot of fine print there. It is recommended to participate and to roll to an IRA when you leave your company. That's kind of automatically what should be done, and particularly if your retirement plan is largely invested in that particular company. That's even higher risk. What if the company goes south? Your retirement plan just went south, so you want to get it out, get it into something that's probably FDIC insured, or something better than just in one company. 403B, 401K, same things. Here, look at the limits here versus the IRA. Contributions up to $22,500 annually per person. If over 50, as 75, you get $30,000 that you could be putting away in your retirement. We're going to look at a hierarchy for investing in a moment, but keep track of those numbers. The non-qualified accounts, those are ones where the government says if you earn something, you're going to pay for it that year as income. They do not qualify for special tax treatment. Saving for goals or plans, the normal things you would be saving for, a new car, a new refrigerator, down payment for a new home. The government is not going to give you an encouragement to do those things along the way. The funded with money left over after your giving, your taxes, and your qualified accounts, then you can do your savings for things that you want to purchase, buy, consume, whatever. Non-qualified accounts, they can be rolled into a Roth, but you're going to have to pay taxes to do that if there are taxes due. Backdoor Roth, talked about that a little bit. Now, this is the rock, paper, scissors of investing. Now, I grew up in a poverty level family, and I never learned that game, and I never know the order. I don't know if it's because we didn't have rock or scissors or paper, but is it rock, paper, scissors? Is that the order for it? And I don't know which one is best. I don't know, and I don't want to know. I got enough in my head already. But here is the rock, paper, scissors for investing. One is the match from your employer. Why is that the first thing? What do you make when you get a match for the employer? 100% gain. Okay, do not leave that on the table. You got it. Well, I can't afford the 3%. You can't afford not to put the 3% in. Do something, deliver pizzas or drive Uber, whatever it is, but get that match from the employer. Then Roth IRA, we talked about that, especially those who are younger. Get a Roth IRA, get a 401k, put into your retirement plan, then go to traditional IRA, then fully funded 401k, 403b, and that's what I'm talking about, the 25, 30,000 that you can put in there, 30,000, yeah. So this is your retirement plan that you want to get in place if you're going to end up where you want to be at retirement in a hierarchy. Somebody in the last class, lady in the back had a lot of questions, but about 5 slides back, she said, what about annuities? And I said, did you write these slides for me? They're coming up. You want to teach the class? No, I don't want to teach the class. Okay. So annuities. I used to be really, strident. I was going to say strict, but strident on this and say, don't do it. And there was a man, a fellowship guy, who had done some donor development work for Christian organizations. And he said, Don, you need to soften on that a little bit. I said, okay, David, what do you mean? He said, well, there's one category that you might make as an exception. Because my general rule is do not invest in annuities. People are enticed, in approaching older age usually, people are enticed to buy an annuity for security reasons. I don't have a good plan in place. I want a guaranteed income for the rest of life. I don't have, investments or IRAs or whatever. However, here used to be the almost guaranteed scenario. In fact, somebody said, what do you think, where do you think all those insurance towers of glass and steel, how do you think they're funded? And my smart answer is annuities. Because here's what would happen. If Don Reed, you know, I get visited and I'm concerned about my future. I say, okay, I have $100,000. Good, we'll pay you, you know, $1,200 a month, whatever it would be, for the rest of your life. And I walked out the door and got hit by the train. Guess how much I got? Zippo. Okay, so don't do annuities. Now here's what David said to me. There's one category, and it's called charitable annuities. In a charitable annuity, you have it set up so you get payment for life, and then whatever is left over from what that's earned and so forth goes to a charity that you've already named. Follow that? So you know that you're, you know, likely some to be left over because they figure, you know, how many years you're going to live and all of that actuarial stuff. You know that whatever's left over is going to go to the charity. Well, if I'm not going to be here because I got hit by a train, let it go to the charity. So that's a little bit better. But usually it's not a good deal to buy an annuity because it's, well, insurance product, that's not all bad. But in this case, it may be more bad. Options may provide guaranteed future income for life, but if you're not living, fixed or variable returns, complex, may not benefit your estate at death, because that was, you know, another thing. If there was some left over, it would maybe go to my estate if I died. No, it goes to the insurance company along the way. So figure that out. Charitable annuities could be a possibility. Trying to be fair. Life insurance, we probably all know, but to just underscore it again. Buy term insurance, not whole life, universal life, variable life, whatever life, okay? Because you're mixing coverage for some eventuality with investing. Okay? And if you look at the investment returns, they're very low on those combined products. Here's what Ray and I have done. We haven't had whole life insurance for, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, I don't know how many, but always had term insurance to cover the balance on the mortgage. When we had one, we don't have one now, okay? So why did I do that? If Don Reed got hit by a train, or as somebody lovingly said in a meeting, by a beer truck, I don't know why they said that. If I got hit by a beer truck, you know, then Ray would not have to worry about a mortgage payment. She'd have some place to live, all right? So I was just buying coverage. The question to ask when you buy life insurance is, for what need? We have no life, if you got minor kids, you got, you know, situations, but life insurance is not an investment product. It's like your car insurance or your casualty insurance on your house. It's coverage for some disaster so that you don't have to pay it out of your pocket. So I do not recommend using it as an investment vehicle. It is not a good choice. Shadow investing, we had a lot of conversation in the class this morning about health savings account, HSA. Some people call that shadow investing. One, some things I learned from people in the class, some really sharp people. One, you can enroll in it. Your company has to offer it and enroll you in it. Okay, tell them, talk to me.
You have to have the high deductible.
Oh, okay, that's another
plan.
piece of it, yeah.
So the company or somebody has to offer you the high deductible plan. But if your company offers that plan and does not have a health savings account, you can go to a bank and get a health savings account on your own.
Like
My
I said-
sister did it, so,
Like I said, there's a lot of wisdom in the class.
yeah.
But may be corrected at the next hour. Thank you very much. Okay, so
So you.
if they don't
you
offer
own
it,
your
you can go to a
Yeah,
bank and set up an
As long as
HSA.
that plan qualifies and there's.
Yeah, it's the high deductible
Yeah.
is the key to
Yeah.
get, you can't do it without a high deductible. We got
Yeah.
that settled in the first hour.
Yeah,
But they said it has to be offered by the employer.
nope,
Bingo. I'll send out a correction to the other
Yeah.
class. Thank you very much for that.
yeah.
We have a lot of knowledge in the class. I appreciate it. So HSA, here are some other things that if you're moving toward retirement and you're where you can get an HSA, you can pay your probably lower medical expenses out of pocket during that period of time and leave the HSA. Some former plans, like used to be something called a cafeteria plan, a 625 or something, and with that you had to use it by December 31st or you lost it. You use it or lose it. HSA is not that way. It stays in there and keeps earning right into your retirement after you quit working. And then somebody mentioned in the first class, you can even, if you paid all your medical expenses with cash receipts up to retirement, you can even add those all up and take it out of your HSA after your retirement, after you retire. And then if you are retired, you can use that, or you're not contributing anymore, you can use that for your probably increasing medical expenses. Everybody with me on that? So whatever your co-pays are, your Medicare or whatever, you can use the HSA. So it's called a shadow investing vehicle that is tax favored because you don't pay any tax going into it, and you don't pay it coming out if it's used for medical expenses. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, and actually there's an age, like if you still have it, you can take it out.
Yeah.
It's-
And the question, and I'll ask you, since we're upgrading here, no, it's okay if you don't know it. Because somebody then said, well, what if some is left when I die? What happens to it?
It just becomes like any kind of IRA or anything that.
It goes into your estate?
Yeah.
Do you have to pay taxes on it probably?
I think it's
It's
the same as
pre-tax.
any other IRA.
Oh, you have to pay
Yeah.
tax on it. Yeah, so it would go in that category of tax deferred, tax preferred, and so,
I
anyway.
never asked that question. I'll
Yeah,
figure that out.
neither did I. I hadn't thought about it, so anyway. This is fun. Okay, we need to talk about investing, and there are 3 ways to go about it. Do it yourself. We'll unpack each one of these. Do it yourself with help, or advisor managed. There are the 3 ways to go at it. And I know we probably have all, across the board here where these will apply. Choose one of them or whatever. Do it yourself, the easy way. If you're you say, I'm familiar with stocks, I know how to buy, I know what an index is, I can do that. You can do that by yourself. You just go on, set up an account, link it to your bank account, say I want to buy 5,000, 10,000, 5 million, whatever you want to buy, and you can be your own your own stockbroker. There's something else that in the do-it-yourself category where you can buy something called a target date fund. That is a little bit beyond do-it-yourself, and then you say, I want to have my retirement money available for me in 2052. You go, okay, we'll give you a 2052 target date fund, and we will keep managing the risk tolerance during those years from now till 2052, 30 years, and we'll, as we get closer to the end, we have safer, lower risk along the way. My experience has been with them, we have not used a target date fund, is that because they are a managed fund, the expenses are higher and you end up with less than using an index fund where you're just letting the market take care of itself. Everybody follow me on that? Because you're buying and selling, and there's some costs to that every time you do it along the way. Number 2 is do it yourself with help. So you can subscribe to an investing newsletter of whoever your favorite stock guru is, and they will send you a letter every month. They'll say, buy this, sell this, whatever, and you just follow what they say. So you're getting professional advice, but you're not getting it managed. You're still left with you to take action on it. There's one upgrade, it's called a robo advisor service. This would usually be offered to people if you had, some considerable assets to invest, but under $100,000. They would say, we'll set you up with a robo advisor. What that is probably a mixture of robo and AI, just saying, okay, here's your age, here's your money, here's your risk tolerance, and we'll give you a formula of how to invest along the way. That's kind of
Even with the investor advisors, you gotta be careful who you listen to.
we're going to get to that in a moment. Yeah. Did you write these slides? You want to teach? No, good.
Not about money.
Good comment. Yeah, I know. Okay, the top grade, and you're probably over $100,000. Agreement with a financial advisor, planner. They have different names, certified financial planner, and so forth, to handle your investing decisions. You say, I don't know anything about it. I don't want to do it. I don't understand it. I want to hire somebody to do it. Your money is, my caution at the bottom, your money is still always your responsibility. It is your money, so keep in touch with it. That's it. That's what you were saying, Jay. Keep in touch. Understand the decisions. Ask the right questions. Why are we selling this? Why are we buying this? Why are we going into bonds when we were in stocks? Tell me. Be informed along the way. So the question is, where do I go and who do I use? Number 1, The most important aspect is the relationship. And I would recommend, as in with a doctor or lawyer or stockbroker, that you interview 3 people at least to see who am I comfortable with? Who listens to me, doesn't just talk and try to sell me something? What is the relationship? Because this person is going to be not only important to your financial future, but somebody that you enjoy meeting with and is, positive toward what we're trying to do. Relationship. Find a person with a heart of a teacher. What is a stock? What is an index fund? What is a ETF? What is a treasury bond? And that they will take the time to talk to you and help you understand what's happening with your money. Use someone you trust. And there's a comment here, the next one, kind of go together. There's something called a fiduciary duty. That comes from the word fide, which means truth. And that is speaking the truth to you all the time. There are a lot of lawsuits that have ended up with stock people who were not looking out for the investor as much as for their own commissions. And you talk about is churning stocks. They just sell to get a commission. And then people found out later, hey, I'm not making anything here. And a lot of lawsuits out there. They came out with something called the fiduciary duty statement. So you ask that broker or certified financial planner or whoever, have you signed the fiduciary duty statement? And that says, I will always make decisions based on what is best for the investor who's coming to me. Everybody follow that? Not all people do that. Ask. Avoid financial advisors who want to sell you something today. Hey, this stock is going crazy. Midnight tonight will be the last time. Okay, well, I'll be sleeping at midnight. Not going to do it. Do not disclose how they make their money. I want to be upfront with you, Mr. and Mrs. Whoever. It's going to be 1% of your net assets invested on a rolling basis or on December 31 or whatever. They tell you how they make it and how much they will make from you. If they don't do that, beware. Has no interest in teaching you. Oh, you wouldn't understand. This is too complicated for you. Well, I can learn. So putting it all together, here's an example of creating a written investment plan. So you put down, what are my goals, etc. Describes your long-term financial goals and investment strategy. So there's a lady called in on the same program this morning, and she said, I've inherited $300,000, and I want to know where to invest it. She said, when I called in the program before, you advised that I find a high interest rate bank and put it in there. And he asked a couple questions about, okay, what's your risk tolerance? You want to be sure it's safe and so on? Yes. Okay, then you need to, and he named 3 online banks that I'd be glad to recommend to you or pass on to you if you're interested. But you develop an investment strategy that you're comfortable with. And it will give you a steady reference point during market storms or downturns, because we get spooked when the market goes down. Just say, no, we're on track. We weather the storm and wait for it to come back along the way. So if you sat down with somebody, here is your likely experience. You go through your data, age, income, financial goals, short and long term. We want to pay for kids' college. We want to pay part of kids' college. We want to have some to pass along to charities or to family or to whoever. Financial goals. Current contributions. What are you doing now? At your age, you're doing this. Here's what it'll lead to unless we make some changes. They will say, okay, we need to run some numbers. They'll have their computer here, like I guess this lady has a computer on her lap. But you could do that. I'll give you some places here in a moment. And what that means is you're extrapolating out what you're doing now for however many years to retirement, and here's what the net is going to be. You run some numbers and then make adjustments and choose appropriate investments to get the job done. So here's the example couple. Mike and Mary Brown, 32, a couple kids, annual income 82, split 72 and 10. Current retirement savings 120. So they've been contributing to their retirement plans along the way. That's good. They're doing really well for early 30s. Mike is putting 9% of his salary automatically into the plan. What did I say is the minimum you want in your plan to do well? 15%. Yeah, 15%. So he's under supported, under contributing there if we were beginning to do an analysis. Company match at 50 cents per dollar up to 6%, so he's getting the 3% match. That's good. Mary's, because she's part-time, she's got a Roth IRA, 32 years of age. That's a good point because she's got the years. And then they want to do some college savings along the way. What is their goal? Retirement by age 67 with financial freedom. Asterisk down at the bottom, passive income exceeds active expenses. And that's our goal. That's where Ray and I are. Because we were not because we were so smart, but basically God's goodness and grace, and because we just followed the plan. The plan is not genius. It's just regularity and not spending everything you make as soon as you get it. Run some numbers here, Bankrate.com, Fidelity, Schwab, whatever brokerage you might be familiar with, and then make some adjustments in order to get where we want to be. So, don't shoot the messenger because I'm just reading here. The Bible says a foolish person has empty shelves. In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish person devours all he has. And that is that principle right in that verse, practiced over a lifetime, will determine how you end up in retirement. It's as simple as that. You know, if you eat everything on the shelves every week and have nothing left over, then you're going to end up with a statistic like we showed earlier along the way. The challenge, and I would say this is for Ray and myself, I've had some conversation with a couple guys after the first class, is to maintain a biblical balance in saving and kingdom investing. 2 points I want to make. When you are in the retirement age, as Ray and I obviously are, the question that I've been looking for half a dozen years for an answer to is how much do we need to make it to the end? I mean, that is the question from our age group. Well, it's hard because when's the end? You know? I mean, we know what our living expenses are. We're in a pattern right now. And then there's a book that I found a month or so ago that was the first book to put numbers on it. I think the numbers are really high, but I was so encouraged to say, somebody's thinking about this. You know, what do we need to make it to the end? But it's maintaining a balance in biblical balance and saving, and I'll show you a verse in a moment. Balance between saving and kingdom investing. Like one of the young men after the class said, you know, where are you in your, the journey? And I said, well, it's in that equation right there. You know, how much do we save to make it to the end? How much do we be generous and help get the gospel out around the world, which is kind of where we are. This book that I talked about, you may want to write down these 3 words. We come into this world with a preference, with almost a inborn proclivity towards either being, first word, a spender, 2, a saver, and 3, a servant of Christ, or a servant. Did we tell you that last week?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, here are the downsides of it. For a saver, or for a spender, we end up broke. For a saver, we can end up hoarding. And for a servant, we can end up thinking, because we're generous and giving, we're holier than other people. Because every good thing has a downside, right? There's being extreme in any one of them is not good, if you follow what I say. So here was the man in this verse that's on the screen who was in the saver hoarder. God said to him, you fool, who will get what you have prepared for yourself? You had this great retirement plan, and guess what? Tonight, I'm going to call you in. I'm going to call your life in. Who's going to get it then? This is how it will be with anyone who stores up things for himself, but is not rich toward God. And that's really the balance of the equation that Ray and I are living out where we are right now. Okay, so going back to our beginning slide, which category do we want to be in? Well done, or you wicked lazy servant? And we all have to answer it to ourselves. And the three questions are, how much is enough for me, us, where Ray and I are? How much is enough for our children? And we talked about that some when, we have a boy and a girl, both doing very well in jobs. And if we live a while, not much longer, they will be nearing retirement. And what do they need from us? You know, they've already got their house, they already got the kids through school, college, and whatever. So answering that question with wisdom, and what will you do with the rest? And remember, God brought the pie. You remember that, that we were on. So that's it. We're a couple minutes over. So